Bow, 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 bow. You're looking at the man, the myth, the legend. This is the general manager of the Memphis Grizzlies, Jeremiah Hill, throwing out a podcast solo style because specifically Walt Frazier, Shane Battier had too big of whistles to get in on this shit. Um, what we're gonna do on this podcast is we are going to aggressively analyze each team and their position. We're going to see what Jeremiah, greatest GM in D5 history, is going to do with that team. And I suggest that whoever owns that team does the same thing. If at any point someone decides to join this podcast, they can suck my dick because they weren't here when it started and they were sitting down there. I see them online. Eat my dick. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll over to that roster page. Oh yeah, open that new tab. You know what I'm saying? All right, Atlanta Hawks. What's going on? We have Nikola Mirotic, who is the primary player on this team. It's the highest rated player at 78. Everyone else is basically rated lower. Um, he has a lot of players that I would want outside of Jan Vesley. Um, to all my Filipino friends who are also in the league that I really enjoy talking to, you guys kind of get honey dicked a little bit by picking up random dudes. I don't know if Jay Z is a Filipino person. Um, he's been in the league for a long time, but he has sort of the similar player style. He took a gamble on Jan Vesley coming back to the U.S. Jan Vesley is currently balling out in Europe. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to come to pass. And he gave that long contract because his team doesn't really matter right now. He's going to get a top three pick this year. Finally, he's been bad. His team, he hasn't been a bad GM, but his team has been bad for approximately since I've been in the league. I was just lucky enough to be worse than him and get Karl-Anthony Towns. Not his fault, but it happened. Um, Vesley was a good gamble. Those are the kind of gambles you take. 2 million a year with the cap going up. He has 48 million on his cap next year. Not a big deal. DeAndre Bembry, Kelly Oubre, Alfred Payton, Mario Hezonja, Dario Saric, and Cody Zeller are his primary prospects. I think of all of those, I'm more excited about Dario Saric. However, Dario Saric's value is depressed by Ben Simmons, who's about to be coming into the fold. Ben Simmons is going to be a ball handler, and he's a power forward size guy. He's going to take away from Dario Saric. Mario Hezonja has been kind of shitty for Atlanta this year, so it's kind of interesting to see where everything goes. He has a lot of Orlando players on his team. Overall, I think he's in one of the better spots of anyone in this team, of anyone in this league. Nikola Mirotic, the only problem is that 2 years at the end for $17 million, he has a player option. So if he literally blows dicks next year, um, he's going to be on the hook for that. So look for him to try and trade that away to someone who really liked him. Um, but a lot of the people that liked him are pretty solid talent evaluators, in my opinion. So it might be a little hard to do that. We're gonna roll down to Boston Celtics. This is Ian Noble. Ian Noble is our illustrious and glorious leader and commissioner and confidant. He basically lucked into Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which is bullshit. Because why wouldn't he? He went from winning a championship to I'm immediate tanking. He traded away Rajon Rondo. He did what the actual Celtics did, which was trade away a bunch of good players and get a dickload of draft picks for it. And it is working out swimmingly for him. He is about to get Ben Simmons back. Ben Simmons honestly might push him into the playoff picture out in the East because out of the what is it, 15 East teams, I'm thinking about 13 of them are tanking, so he'll probably end up in the playoffs if he gets Ben Simmons back and actually plays him like an adult. He's locked into Jabari Parker not being as bad as I thought he would be, despite the fact that I still agree that he does not play defense, but he can score. If Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons can both score, then he has Sixth Man of the Year of the planet in Enes Kanter and a bunch of other dipshits on his team. Fortunately for him, dipshits, basically all of them are at least decent. He's going to lose James Ennis this offseason. I'm not thinking he's worried about that, but it's going to happen. So for Ian Noble, good job on your getting bullshit lucky before I even got in this league. I would have fucking trade raped you, but it's fine. It's fine. So Ian Noble, Boston Celtics, they're doing all right. Let's roll down to the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn Nets. Their team is winning despite the fact that it sucks. Look up and down this roster, and you will not see one player that you would trade a first-round draft pick for. And that's just a fact. You'd see two players that you would trade a first-round draft pick for, and that's even like all the way up to the 30th pick that you would not trade one draft pick for any of these ding-dongs, except for maybe Rodney Hood, Domantas Sabonis is okay, but I mean, let's be honest, he's kind of just living off of that Russell Westbrook joint. You know what I'm saying? They'll probably make the playoffs based on how many games they've won this year because apparently the Atlanta Hawks are immune to winning. So their worst contract is Rudy Gay, who after tearing a ACL is for sure going to take up that player option. That'd be dumb if he wouldn't. But if he's back next year at that 81 rank, if Brooklyn is able to sign another person, which I don't think he'll be able to due to the I traded Blake Griffin after just getting Blake Griffin thing, then he could make some noise in the playoffs next year as well. Not going to happen, so we're not going to worry about it. Oh, other terrible contract. Sean Kilpatrick. He is a fantasy basketball dream. He's not that good. He's on the Nets. Like, everybody on a basketball team is going to put up numbers if they're the only people there to put up the damn numbers. He's one of them. Not a prospect. Sorry, not sorry. James K. Damn, your team is bullshit. I hate your team because it is weighted so realistically. I just traded him Omri Caspi, who, to be honest, I thought would be a better spot-up shooter than Ersan Ilyasova, who I got from him. So far, hasn't worked out for him. I think it will eventually. Hasn't worked out so far, but Caspi's a good player, and I don't think that he's ever going to be lower than that 77 until he's like borderline out of the league. Chris Middleton's about to come back. That could mean he will have 3 plus 80s he'd have 2 plus 80s and 190 plus on his roster, and it's spread out reasonably. He has a point guard and a shooting guard at plus 80 and a basically a center power forward plus 80. That's a good balance. I think that he is going to be the team to beat again this year, despite the fact that Milwaukee is playing out of their minds right now. Let's roll down to Chicago Bulls. Shane Battier was a big wimp and did not show up to this podcast, despite the fact that when I posted the link, he was definitely online for show. He was. So let's be honest. He's not there. he has three plus 85s on his team. He has Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard, and Chris Paul. I got a lot of flack for this signing when I was a player agent, and I apologize for not keeping everybody up to date, but there was literally 25 teams trying to get Kawhi Leonard. Unfortunately, I think we all know that 25 teams were not even in the ballpark for Kawhi Leonard. It sucks. I thought it was a cool signing. It made sense. And then Shane Battier proved himself by making a quality trade to get Noah off his books. Who knows if it'll actually work? But I thought that his pitch was better than everyone else's. I got 5 or 6 other opinions on it, and they all agreed. The only other team realistically that was going to get him was the Hornets. And only problem with the Hornets is that they win a championship and they just trade a player away. To me, I look at real life and I look at what makes sense for the player. Uh, Kawhi Leonard doesn't go to a team that trades away a player right after winning a championship. I just don't believe it. That's my personal opinion. And I know that James K was pretty salty about it. But of all the people that would have got salty about it, I thought he would be the most, but he's kind of not been a dick about it. Of all the people that wouldn't be a dick about it, I wasn't expecting him to not be a dick about it. Uh, Being a player agent sucks, asshole. I encourage everyone who thought that I sucked at it to try to do it. You might be better than me, you might be worse, but you will understand that it was not easy decisions that I was making. Um, I set when I signed this deal, I thought in my head that he realistically has 3 more years of Chris Paul, this year included. So, uh, if he does not win a championship by the time that Kawhi Leonard has that player option there, he is going to leave, and that made sense to me. Uh, we can't have perfect parity between us and real life. The Phoenix Suns offer was literally, here's the money. That was it. He did not make any argument of why he should stay with him while he rebuilt anything. It was basically everyone's offer was better than Phoenix's. So if anybody has any problem with me giving him, uh, taking him out of Phoenix, they have no argument. Phoenix's offer was garbage. I anticipate having a similar offer to most of the offers that came in from Kawhi for my own player, Nikola Jokic, and I don't think that's outside of the realm of reality. So I think that Shane Battier has been a good GM. He was a newer GM, but he made a kick-ass offer. He did that for all of them. So I thought it was cool for the league to have another big powerhouse in the East, and the signing made sense at the time. I'm kind of rambling now, but kind of interesting. I'm gonna be interested to see how this goes. Uh, there was another team outside of James K that was very in the running, and that was the Houston Rockets. Um, their offer was just as convincing on paper. Uh, to be honest, with Eric Gordon getting his raise, only kind of bad contract on them is Bismack Biyombo, but even then, he's not that bad. I don't anticipate Bismack Biyombo being taken off, but he had Giannis, who was there, who was going to fight him for minutes, to be honest, and that was sort of the tipping point. It was so close between everybody. It was a lot of semantics is what it came down to. And so that's just what it was. But Chicago, they're doing a good job, and Robin Lopez is good. I did not understand why he had felt like he had to give $18 million to Joakim Noah. He deserves to give up a first round pick to get rid of that contract. Once the solid hard cap comes in, I can see Denver and LA Clippers doing a similar thing to get rid of contracts, which is what happens in real life. So I'm happy with it. We're going to roll the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland Cavaliers have Kristaps Porzingis, who is the unicorn. He is going to be described after I get my coffee. All right, so he is the unicorn. The white man can jump poster child and Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis is one of the most exciting players in the league. He is overrated at an 84. I draw that conclusion from the fact that he's on the New York Knicks. And basically, what happens is anytime someone is on the Nets or the Lakers, they get overrated because they're on TV all the time. There's only one player that deserves to be slightly overrated, and it just so happens that that person is also on this team. Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson, I anticipate as a free agent, will make upwards of $10 million a year. He is currently averaging his career best at 45% field goal percentage and is only at 34% three-point shooting. So the fact that he's even at 45% field goal shooting is kind of impressive. He's not throwing out as many assists, but he's not giving up the ball more than he's assisting, so it's pretty solid. So he's getting 14 points a game. Overall, I like Jordan Clarkson a lot. I don't see him going over an 80 rating ever. However, he will be a solid guy who is probably never dropping below a 78 and may get as high as 80 overall. So he could be a good piece for a team that's looking to make a run. Jeff Green is the D5 superstar. He is basically Sim God at this point, where Dirk Nowitzki left, Jeff Green stepped into, no, Danny Green, sorry. Danny Green stepped in, and Hanamachi has paid him well, and he will stay for the next 5 years. What I'd like to see Hana do is get rid of Thomas Robinson. I'd like to see him get rid of a couple guys, and hopefully he will be able to sign a big name guy who will come in and be sort of his guard that comes in and makes Danny Green, Jeff Green, and Porzingis viable. I don't think that he needs a big power forward to come in and do any of that. It's interesting because he's going to have some cap space this year, and I think next year he is going to drop off JaVale McGee and Jeff Green and have an additional $20 million in space. And with the cap going up the way it is, I think he's going to be able to sign at least 2 more guys the next 2 years and be baller out. You know what I'm saying? All right, so Dallas Mavericks. Dirk Nowitzki is going to retire at the end of the year. I don't think anyone's questioning that. I just think it's going to be like, when is the announcement going to come? He has one of my favorite trade targets in Will Barton, who I keep trying to trade for, that he won't let me do it. So, Danny Longley, I'm mad about it. Suck my dick. But Courtney Lee this guy who I like, who's playing on New York Knicks, who is sucking balls. So I can see him getting lowered pretty soon. But he's off the roster next year anyway. So he's going to lose Courtney Lee, Dirk Nowitzki. He should trade Reggie Jackson and just go into full tank mode because he doesn't have. I don't think he has this year's draft pick. Let me scroll up. Scroll. Um, so I see why he's no, he's missing this year, so he should just quit now. Um, there's a couple teams tanking that don't have their draft picks, so it doesn't really make sense for them to tank. Uh, that's on them being shitty, but uh, hats off to Danny for not tanking despite that. He's doing the Mark Cuban where he shows that he's dedicated to winning. So I think that if Dirk does get out of there next year, uh, I could see him kind of maybe getting a quality free agent if he chooses to do so. Because he doesn't have his pick. No, he does. No, he doesn't. He has his pick to Sacramento next year. Vlad, if you're listening in, I want to trade for that pick because I don't think his team is going to be that good next year. And that's not a hit on Danny. I just don't think it's going to happen. All right. His prospects, Demetrius Jackson. Weirdly a quality player. He is on Boston with all 400 of their other guard players that they have. They have Isaiah Thomas, Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier, Demetrius Jackson's 4 guards, 3 of them that are in development. It's kind of put a damper on my stock of Marcus Smart, but it should for Demetrius Jackson as well. If they're able to trade those two, expect the stock for both Demetrius and Smart to go up. A couple other guys on their team kind of suck. Mike Muscala was a guy I thought would get a raise and then just didn't for some reason. He's playing on a team putting up good percentages, 43% from 3 points, so he definitely should not be a 64 overall. He doesn't turn the ball over too bad. He's a good passer. Not playing a lot of minutes, but percentages are good. Should be at least a 75. Nah, that's crazy. 71 or so. So that's one guy. Then a couple other guys, Anthony Brown, Darren Hillard. Not going to go into their stats because I don't feel like Googling it. But when I Googled it for my piece on the free agents, they were doing a lot better than I even anticipated, considering I don't know who they are really. So good job, Danny, getting some low cost guys, and also in general, you're doing a good job. You're dealing with your Dirk situation very admirably. Denver Nuggets. Let's start this section off with a solid fuck you, Alex. Brook Lopez is an 85. I feel like a lot of people think that's overrated. He is underrated. He is doing an all right job. There's nothing he's going to do from the center position. He's really good center. He's not I'm going to change your franchise center. So the real life Nets suck dick. It's their own fault. But it's not Brook Lopez's fault. He deserves that ranking. If anything, I say he's underrated. Marcus Aldridge this year has been overrated. I would not be against seeing him at an 85, 87 kind of area. Aaron Aflalo has been kind of shitty. There's a lot of down that this roster could get, unfortunately. That's just based off of Aaron Aflalo sucking this year, so he's really a 75 as opposed to that 77. LaMarcus Aldridge is not putting up 89 numbers. I'm sorry, he's just not. I can see him dropping 2 overall points. John Wall is awesome. James Harden's awesome. I hate James Harden, and it pains me physically. I'm actually gonna have a heart attack about saying that James Harden is awesome, but he is. He's exciting. He puts up numbers. He's had like 40 points, 15 rebounds, 15 assist games, like multiple times this season. He's awesome. Totally deserving of that rank. So worst case scenario, I see a Flawless losing a couple points, Aldridge losing a couple points, Grievous Vasquez, I'm not sure is even in the NBA anymore. Actually, I'm gonna kick that. And he is. He plays for, of course, the fucking Nets. He's terrible. He should not be a 76. Basically, outside of Luol Deng and Alex Len, I could see this bench dropping out on Alex, and that could be a problem for him in the future. So we'll see how this goes towards the playoffs. Other than that, his starting five is solid. No one's gonna give a shit about anything in that starting five. It's awesome. Detroit Pistons. Vlade. Um, cut Rajon Rondo. Don't trade him. No one's giving you shit for him. Just cut him. It's only hurting your pick. Sign a random ding dong off of. Here, actually, I'll tell you who to sign. You ready for it? You ready for it? Oh, yeah. Free agency. Click that button. Free agents list. Click that button. Oh, yeah. Up in this bitch. Um. Cut Rajon Rondo, signed Donald Sloan to a 3-year, $3 million per year contract. Next year, you'll free up 20 something million dollars. Donald Sloan is not going to force you to win like Rondo will on accident. And Donald Sloan is a legitimate prospect. Even though he's like 20 something years old, he's at least a player. He's a real player. So you have Donald Sloan on your team, Dion Waiters, who should probably get bumped up to a 75, 76, just purely on his numbers. Basketball wise, I don't like him. Basketball player wise, I love him. I think he's hilarious. But you got a lot of prospects on your team. Get them out of there. If I won't anticipate you having to spend picks to get rid of him because Iguodala is a good playoff guy. Bogut's a good playoff guy. Just get him out of there so that your pick this year is a top 3 pick. I think it can be easily. That's really the only direction that Vlade has to go. Because if he tries to win, he's just gonna fail at it. Because look at that roster. It's not his fault. It's not Gosney's fault either. I liked him. I like talking to him on the chat and stuff. He's just doing what he thought he could do. He did sign the Drew Gooden contract to $6 million, but that team option. So really, that's an expiring contract. So that's a trade piece as well. So no hate on Gosney. Golden State Warriors. Zaza Pachulia, All-Star. Psych. He just has to resign Pau Gasol. I don't think Pau Gasol is going to drop below an 80 by the time that he retires because he's still good now. He could probably get lowered this year. Let's be honest, he's not putting up the numbers that he used to at 86. I'm one of the people that fought for Pau Gasol's 86 rating. I love Pau Gasol. I think he's a Hall of Famer for sure. But this season, he's more like an 82, 81 kind of guy. So look to see that lower thread sometime this season from somebody. But I don't think that he ends his career anything lower than an 80. So if someone wants to sign him for like 2 years at like the same money that he's at, you won't hear nothing from me about it being a bad. Of the big contenders outside of Milwaukee, I think Channing Frye is awesome. Richard Jefferson is awesome. Patty Mills is awesome. He's got a good bench. Rashawn Holmes is better than you'd think. Josh Richardson is better than you think as well. Uh, let's just say this, that Chris Mullen can, because he's so good, can S my D, and hey, I'll take that. Whatever, I'll take what I can get at this point. But I like his team. I think he's been doing a good job. He got LeBron back, but realistically, I don't think that this team's gonna stay together unless he does something really magical and the cap does some things. I will say this: he has an awesome team, and his total cap space is within the realms of reality. So good job, Chris Mullen. We're on to Charles Barkley's team and the Houston Rockets. Bismack Biyombo, to me, is probably not the worst contract ever, but it's definitely not the contract that you want the most. Uh, he's on Orlando. He's played 50 games, and he is pretty bad free throw shooter. However, if we look at this per 36 minutes, 9 points a game, 11 rebounds, uh, blocking some shots. He's a weird player. I don't think he's dropping below that 78. You can argue for that 78 all day based on his defense. I don't think that he's worth that much money, but I see why they spent that money. There was a big argument about Kevin Love being rated that 88. He's having a good season. Can't really argue him down. Giannis just got boosted. Eric Gordon is about to get boosted. If Drew Holiday is uh, healthy at the end of the year, I could see the Houston Rockets playing spoiler to a team. He has a lot of prospects: T.J. Warren, James Young, who I like, R.J. Hunter, who I do not like, and is out of the league really right now. He just got cut. He has Paul Pierce on his team. This is a team who is, in my opinion, probably going to have the pick of the litter free agency wise next year. I didn't think he was there last year. I've already discussed that. But if he can sign a guy at max contract, we're looking at I'm thinking he's going to want a point guard just because he has a limited amount of time on Drew Holiday. If he can get a sign a point guard, he get a max level point guard, and then he adds Giannis on there. Like he's gonna have a starting five for like the next 4 years minimum. And that's fucking awesome. So good job on Charles for his team building and not really overreacting too much. He has a couple good guys that are his draft rights guys, and if you for all the people that don't know, go to realgm.com and search for these people. You can look at their international stats. His guys are pretty good. So if they end up coming over, then he's going to have found money. He's going to have to pay him like $500,000 a year, which is nothing. And they're going to be like 75s. So good luck. Good luck on that. Them coming over, and good job on finding them in the second round. Indiana Pacers. Shit on Larry too much. I think he trades too much. I don't think his team is a real team. Uh, I think that if Larry wants to put together a winning team, he has to come in after next season with that cap room and sign somebody. He's proven that he wants to win. I think that he needs to stop deciding whether to tank or whether to win. Either win or tank. And I against the tanking thing. I did it, but I only did it for a couple years. That's the most anybody should do it. Utah, I'm shitting on you right now, but like he has a bunch of guys who probably deserve to be either raised, lower. Nick Stauskas is a guy that could probably be raised because he's not on the Kings anymore, so obviously he's good now. But looking at this team, he's got a lot of great role players that should be on competing teams, but they're on his team. Al Jefferson's been lowered, is getting paid too much money next year. Danilo Gallinari, I like Danilo Gallinari. I don't think that's too outrageous of a contract for him. Lou Williams, great contract. Monte Ellis, pretty good contract. I think he might get lowered because of his struggles in the real life Indiana Pacers. Because let's be honest, he's struggling, so it makes sense. He needs to re-sign Ian Mahinmi. Ian Mahinmi has been injured for Washington. In real life, he is signed to a $16 million contract. He was really good on defense that year for Indiana. So I anticipate him, with his injury, probably getting in between where he's at and his real life value. If I didn't have 37 centers that were doing awesome, I would probably be in the ballpark for him at 12 million a year, just to price other people out of it, just because they're so risk averse in this. He's got a couple of prospects. Like, he's not terrible, but he's got a lot of cap room, and I'd like to see him just kind of sit on it. Just because his team has a draft pick again. He just needs to get a couple. Like, just be terrible one year, Larry, and your competitive nature will allow you to win. All right, Clippers. He has a lot of aging money. He's the only team who has 3 players on it with player options who I think are all going to take it. Carmelo Anthony sucks now. He's like 64th in PER, which is bad. For someone getting paid that money, I think he takes that. I think Tony Parker takes his money because he's like 50 years old. DeAndre Jordan will make him pay up for him or not. This is really the season where we see if the Kenneth Faried trade works out and he makes a run in the playoffs, or I think he might blow it up. If someone said, hey, you can have DeAndre Jordan for a first round pick, if I didn't have Jokic and Towns, I take that all day. So if there's any person who gets that offer after next year, after he signs that full contract, I think that you take that. He's got a pretty good bench. Like, his first like 7 players are minimum. After you account for Tony Parker not being that good, the team changes. None of them are really under 77. So his first 7 players are awesome. Deron Williams is better than Tony Parker, to be honest. So that's kind of interesting. And he has Gorgie Deng on Bird Rights. So it's not like he doesn't have any structure to build off of if he decides to tank after next year. I anticipate him going full bore until then. So I'm excited to see him play spoiler in the playoffs because his team is freaking good. He's done a good job despite he might not have won any championships, but if he does this year, great. But if he doesn't, he's still assembled a great team over that time period, and I think that should be celebrated a little more. Call out to Ian to make an award based on competitiveness. Maybe encourage some of the perma-tankers to grow up and try and win. Lakers. I hate the Lakers because they're on TV all the time and they suck. So I'm going to take it out on the fake Lakers. Nikola Vucevic is an offensive center who isn't better than Cantor, but plays just as bad at defense. So the fact that he's 84 is bullshit. Tristan Thompson is a steal at that price. His real life price is a little outrageous, but I think he's at least a 10 or 11 million dollar player in D5. Harrison Barnes is going to get a max contract this year. Terrence Ross is going to get a solid contract, getting paid over 10 in real life. I don't really see that in D5 just because everyone pays a little bit more attention to stats and whatnot. But he is progressing, so maybe someone does take a risk on him. Kemba Walker, he's got him. He's about to get boosted up in rating based on the Stockwatch side, so that's exciting. Bruno Caboclo is still 2 years away from being 2 years away, so it's going to be interesting to see if he cuts him this offseason. Uh, Myself, Utah, or one of the other teams would probably sign him because they're not really anticipating a run. But based on my current situation, I might not make a run at him in the offseason. Losing Chris Anderson, Jimmer Fredette, who is a Chinese god, averaging like 48 points a game in China. I don't see that translating to the NBA, but it's still kind of cool. He'll be gone next year. Chris McCall is all right. Russ Smith sucks balls. Thon Maker is a prospect. Shabazz Napier is terrible. So I say that he should um, honestly just pick up the options on all those guys just because you don't have your draft picks this year, Magic. Whatever you did to lose them was a bad idea. So I hope you feel bad, but don't get suicidal over it. It wasn't that bad, but you have a good base to build on. You should try and sign some people if you make the playoffs because I think that'll go a long way. Because you are the Lakers, you are a free agent destination. You're in Los Angeles. Let's look at the greatest team in the history of D5 history. Karl Anthony Towns was a slam dunk first round pick, and I maintain that he was because ding 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 Jahlil Okafor sucks dick. And that's his fault because he isn't that good. But Karl Anthony Towns is that good. He was rated an 84. I think that is a little high based on his defensive abilities at this point, but whatever. I'm taking it. Nikola Jokic is probably going to get raised to the plus 80s over the offseason at minimum. Ersan Ilyasova is having a career year, so I don't see him dropping a rating. Marcus Smart is doing what he does. I really hope that he gets better on offense because if he does, I'm looking at my third 80 plus player. Dellavedova is Dellavedova. I don't think he's ever going to go plus or minus 77 ever. He's good. He plays tough defense. Is he a superstar? No, never will be. We call those players super role players. Dwight Powell is a guy who I have bird rights on who is playing out of his mind for the uh, Mavericks. I could see him getting a big contract maybe this year, next year. I don't know when his actual real life contract ends up. But when Nowitzki retires, he will be putting up numbers and probably get into the 77 range himself. Webster, he's been hurt for like 2 years. I don't know what to do with him. I'm not re-signing him. Someone else could take a risk on him though. Grant, don't really care about. I'm gonna re-sign him just because why not? But Onuaku, Felder, walk up, uh, all my draft rights guys. I think that all of my draft rights guys are good. I've been following their stats quite frequently. They're doing a great job overseas. I hope that Furkan comes over to the 76ers. Rade Zagorak comes over. Zhao Q comes over. And I'm losing hope that Nikola Milutinov will come over, but whatever. If he doesn't, I don't have space for them all if they came over at the same time anyway. So I think Alexis Jinksa will go down as one of the worst signings of my team's history, unfortunately, which kind of sucks. I thought he was gonna like kind of step in as a backup center for New Orleans. Never happened. Um, Overall, I'm excited to see what kind of moves I make. Miami Heat. Dwight Howard, Terrence Jones, Trevor Ariza, Dwayne Wade, Mike Conley, Steven Adams. He has like a baller ass team. It wouldn't surprise me if they upset somebody in the East and like come into the finals or something. We'll see what he does. Milwaukee Bucks. Next year, Anthony Davis and Bradley Beal will probably be re-signed by this team. He will have for the next 2 years after that the best starting five in D5. that is kind of his limit, in my opinion. He has the next 2 years to put together a team, or I don't know. Uh, his team is constructed very similarly to Denver, how they were constructed when they had Kyrie and Paul George on their team. So I wouldn't surprise me to see a big trade come out of there. Chandler Parsons sucks. He's not an A2. But other than that, everyone else is pretty much solid. So let's see how it works out. Minnesota Timberwolves, the Derek Favors Lovers Association. He's going to re-sign Jay Crowder. All right, here's what I want everyone to look at. If you're on the roster screen, you can look at the Milwaukee Bucks and the Minnesota Timberwolves at the same time. This should scare everybody. Milwaukee Bucks have only $3 million less than the Minnesota Timberwolves do next year in terms of cap space. So Minnesota's going to have to get real creative in terms of what they're doing with their roster in order to compete with a team like the Bucks or the Denver Nuggets. Overall, I like his roster. Clint Capella is a guy who's going to re-sign for a lot of money. Jay Crowder's a guy who's going to re-sign for a lot of money. He has to really hope that his prospects pan out, though. Otherwise, it's going to be all for naught. New Orleans Pelicans is the team that everyone thought would be in the playoffs this year that is not. Festus Ezeli sucks. Jordan Adams is not in the NBA anymore. Tyus Jones is a midget. Alec Burks is barely in the NBA anymore. And that's his team. A lot of parts of his team are not in the NBA or are completely injured. So it kind of sucks for him, but breaking it down, I think Andre Drummond resigns. Because he is a rookie. I don't think that rookies should be leaving unless the offers are complete bullshit. Drummond's a max player, and I think that Brian Scalabrine gives him that max. He is the white mamba, and I think that he white mambas his dick all over Drummond's face and gets him re-signed. But he has some interesting role players that are on team friendly contracts that he might be able to move. I'm just not seeing a change of direction for this team that brings them into winning. If they're not winning now, it's you have to wonder, is it Brian's fault? Maybe, probably. That's what I'm gonna tell free agents this year. New York Knicks, Frank Kaminsky. Is he good? Is he good? Is he good? Like, do we know if he's good? I'm gonna click on him. I'm gonna see what his numbers are. He's shooting a worse field goal percentage, worse 3-point percentage. He's rebounding a bit better. He's assisting a little better. He's a really good passer for a big man. He's playing a lot of minutes and not scoring as much as I thought he would. He's scoring at a very poor percentage. I'm kind of underwhelmed by him, but there is something there, so that's good. Markieff Morris, I've looked up. He's doing all right. Aaron Gordon is taking a step back this year, so he's not looking as good as he was. But that's all good for New York because they are not trying to win right now. And he has an 80 and a couple other players on his team, so it's not like they're complete trash. But he's going to be eliminating Carl Landry and Gerald Wallace from our books in D5 period. Neither of those players should even be in the league. So they're in there, which is fun. Overall, I appreciate his team. Sorry, got a snap. Wow, what a douche. They're not nearly as cool as I am. He's got a lot of prospects, so he can afford to re-sign all those people. OKC. Remember that time last year when we were worried that Durant was going to go to a different team because he did it in real life, and then we're like, no, let's give Kevin another year as his first year at the team, kind of situation almost. There really wasn't a team who was in the playoffs outside of the Hornets that I felt like Durant was going to go to. I could probably pull up all the old offers and stuff. I don't even know if I have access to those forums anymore. Um, but I felt like it made sense for him to go back to OKC because it just did at the time, I guess. This year, I don't see anybody with cap room that is going to be like, yo, I just won a championship, come to my team because I lucked into cap room, which is essentially what happened in real life. In real life, uh, Kevin Durant and Steph Curry are both going to be eligible for like $40 million contracts, and the cap is only going to go up by like $9 million. That team is not going to have a bench anymore at all. They are not going to pay Iguodala to keep him around. They are not going to pay Shaun Livingston to keep him around. They're kind of fucked. So I think Shaun Livingston might be signed for longer than that, but I think Durant and Cousins hang out and continue being contenders on OKC. That might be my personal opinion kind of going in there, but it just makes sense just looking at the team. I could see him trading a couple guys for another couple guys and making their team a little better. But that's all. Orlando Magic are the team that consistently looks pretty good and then kind of falls off. Evan Fournier was the only player at all this offseason that I put an offer in on. I did not get him. Unfortunately, I really like him as a player. Uh, his team overall, I think, looking at the stats, I didn't like Rudy Gobert that much to begin with. Now I think he's willing to be raised for me, having seen what he does to the Cavs, and I watch Cavs games, so sue me if I don't get to watch every single freaking game on the planet. I try to watch as many as I can. I never got that from Rudy Gobert, but the last couple times I've seen him play, he's done really, really good and probably could be boosted up to maybe an 84, 85 kind of DeAndre Jordan style level. But he's better on offense than DeAndre Jordan, so see how that works out. He signed Timothy Mozgov to the Lakers' actual contract, it looks like, which is kind of dumb. Overall, his team's not in a bad situation. He's got cap room out the ass and a couple open roster spots, so we're not worried about him. 76ers, if he's able to pull this off, he's going to try and trade George Hill, JJ Redick, Gerald Henderson, and Wilson Chandler, who are all amazing role players, for just stuff. If he gets that stuff and then rolls in with Chris Bosh next year, like if he could play, then what the F? If it doesn't work out, then he just has to pay Philly for two. He just has to pay Bosh for a couple more years, and then he's done. So he can have like a dickload of space and really cause some problems because he's gonna have good players on his team still if he decides to re-sign a couple of these guys. Phoenix Suns, new GM on this front, awesome. Taj Gibson, Zach LaVine, and Thaddeus Young are the only players I really like on this team. I think Henry Ellison sucks. I think Tobias Harris kind of is definitely not worth that contract. I like him, but he's not worth that. Zach Randolph is old. He's worth that contract, but he is old and not really doing much with that. Let's see what this draft pick situation is. He doesn't have his pick this year, so I think he should try and win. So good on him for. Oh shit! He tried to trade Thaddeus Young away. He needs to tank next year, not this year. Like, there's no reason to tank and give Atlanta another free top 5 pick. It's dumb. I don't know what that vote's gonna go. If it does, it's a good trade. Like, it's not the worst trade we've ever seen in D5. Let's not be thicker, but his team has some interesting players on it who have some value, so I'm excited to see what he does with it. Portland got Paul George and Kyrie Irving. In real life, Paul George, Kyrie Irving, and Marcin Gortat is the most underrated center in the league. I don't see how that team doesn't end up in the conference finals every single year. So if it doesn't, blame Ian. Why not? He has a couple guys who are kind of just suck. Garrett Temple's awesome, but Ryan Hollins blows dicks. Like, why is he even on this team? So once again, I blame Ian. Sacramento Kings, Vladay's old team. I be honest, I think he gets Damian Lillard back. Like, I don't see why he doesn't. This team kind of got butt fucked as far as Gasol, the whole Gasol saga, and all that shit happening. Um, I don't think it was going to help him win a championship, but I think that Damian Lillard and the Sacramento Kings, they have their pick this year. I think they should have an opportunity to get their quality pick. They're going to get a wing player most likely, and see what they can do with that. If Damian Lillard signs a 2 or 3 year contract, it makes sense to give the team a chance. It's sort of what he did in real life, except he signed his max contract. And maybe he signs a max contract because I'm tired of the Damian Lillard types going to contenders for no fucking reason. It's stupid. So he re-signs with Sacramento Kings. Trey Lyles gets a little better. Otto gets a little better. Diogo Splitter kind of sucks dick, but he has literally $80 million in space next year. If he can't get a couple guys, then that's his fault for not being able to put together an offer properly. JR, JR, dude, sign another guy. You have fucking 11 guys on your team. What the fuck? Where you at, dude? Evan Turner sucks, but he's 78 and he's worth that 78. Thabo Sabalenka kind of sucks, worth that 75. Derrick Rose, injured too much. Tyler Zeller, guy I like. Paul Millsap, I railed for you this offseason, JR, and you got Paul Millsap. I thought it was worth it because you traded for him. I thought that you did a good job making your offer. So good job, JR. You're going to be in the playoffs again this year. I could see you re-signing Jonas, assuming you have the space. You're under the cap, so you're fine. I don't think you need to re-sign any of the other players unless you get them on value contracts. If you could do that, and then also pick up another free agent this year, I could see you being a big player next year. So, congratulations on your roster building, despite the fact that I don't like some of your players. Good job, JR. Toronto Raptors, Al Horford, Draymond Green, Kyle Korver, DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry. There's not a team in the actual NBA that would say, no, I don't want that lineup. Honestly, I think that lineup is better than the real life Golden State Warriors. Kyle Lowry is going to be getting this bump to 89 area, and I could see that team being really scary in the East. So good job on that. Joe Johnson's contract's a little ridiculous. Clay Anthony Early's not a real player because he got shot in the leg by a gun, an actual real gun. DeMar Carroll is going to get re-signed at the $10 million range. Overall, good team. Good job. Utah Jazz. This team is basically the biggest piece of shit team I've ever seen assembled in the history of D5. I have never seen a worse team run by a worse GM in my entire life. This guy is a guy who literally has never watched a basketball game in his life. Seriously, I'm not even joking. He's the guy who's in your fantasy team who doesn't really watch football, but you brought in because you needed an extra guy. And that's the Utah Jazz. I mean, just look at this team. It's a who's who of lost causes. Joseph Young. Who is that? Is he the one for Boston or is he the other one? Deontay Davis. Are we just drafting players out of college now? Like, what the F? I literally cannot believe the level of bullshit that D5 is willing to accept from the Utah Jazz general manager. Adam Collins is his real name. It's not even really Billy King. Billy King could put together a more competitive roster. I'd know because he'd trade all of the valuable assets for one good player so that he could get boosted in the first round. Why aren't you getting boosted in the first round, Adam? What the F? Just kidding. Justice Winslow dropped off. His best player is an 83, but his second best player is a 73. This team is going nowhere fast. Let's hope he gets a draft pick so he stops tanking because it's fucking annoying. Because he can't even tank right. Atlanta's beating him. Washington Wizards. Do they have their pick? Yeah, they have their next 4 picks. Washington Wizards, if you're listening, damn it, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem, if you trade any of those first round picks, I'm going to rail for your banishment from the league. You have put together a bad enough team with enough prospects to be bad and collect prospects at the top of the draft and hopefully put together a really good team. So I hope that you keep those guys. You hang on to D'Angelo Russell, Larry Nance, those kind of guys. Overall, you've been doing a great job, and I hope that you continue to do a great job, but just don't trade them picks. Let's be legit, guys. This is about the end. That's where I'm gonna be calling it quits because I'm bad at time and stuff. So, if you want to just remember, I'm gonna leave you with a quote. Despite the common misconception, failure is an option, and that is how Adam Collins runs his team. Thank you and good night.